Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Now That You Mention It podcast with Roll J and RJ.
I'm Ro.
I'm Jay.
And I'm RJ.
Hey, guys, we really just want to say thank you for another week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the feedback. We love that you guys talk to us all the time. We love that, all the things that, that we get to say and that you guys actually enjoy it. If you like, you can continue to follow us here on YouTube. Just hit the like and subscribe button down at the bottom. Click the little bell so you get notifications when our new content comes out. Make sure to check us out at nowthatyoumentionit.org so you can kind of get all of our content there. If you're listening on audio only format, just be sure to hit us up on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and I think that's it. Hit us up on our social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Reddit.
That's it.
And that's all of us. And if all that's too confusing for you, just go to nowthatyoumentionit.org. Hit us up on our website. You can always access all of our content from there. But how you doing tonight, boys?
Doing very well. I feel like I'm directing traffic. So when you guys edit this week, make sure you put the audio format on this side because I'm pointing over here, and all our social media on this side because I'm pointing on this side. Because I'll look like a jackass if you do it reverse. And and if you guys do that,
well, I was going to say,
hey, Bernie Sanders' face over you.
I always wonder.
Senile anyway.
So let me ask you a question. Go ahead. Say what you got to say.
I always wonder what the YouTube video viewers think when you're like and subscribe and you point in every wrong direction, and then they're like, look at the screen and they're like, wait a minute, the buttons are at the bottom.
So have you guys figured out, because you as many of our viewers know, I'm not the technical guy. It's these two guys right here. They're the ones that do all the magic here. Have either one of you figured out how to like blur any part of the content or anything like that?
I mean, I don't think I've had a reason to so far.
Oh, but you can drop graphics on, right? I've seen y'all.
Yeah,
because you superimposed hats. So make sure you do this one for my brother Jay.
I'm with the foam finger that says Bernie Sanders on it.
Man, Bernie's been all over the world in the last 24 hours, it seems like.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the. To be honest with you, that's some of the fun of social media, right? We have in this country so many people that have such creative talent that they put and a great sense of humor. I saw the one where they have Bernie superimposed on the bench with Forrest Gump, right?
Yeah. Well, before we hop too far into that, because I actually want to talk more about that because it does pertain to the inauguration. But I want to give two quick shout outs. One to Crudolandia, who is a supporter of the podcast, also a client of ours, but they just opened up their first DFW location in Arlington at Park Row, New York. So go check them out. Like I said, they've shown us some love, even with comments on our YouTube page. And then I also want to give a shout out to the A Fool podcast. It's a Houston podcast. They commented sometime back when we did our Dallas episode on one of our Reddit posts. And so they commented on our Reddit channel today and said that they'll be giving us a shout out. Well, they already did, but that episode hasn't dropped yet. Yeah, exactly. So thanks to both those groups.
Well, hey,
what's going down in Houston and fool? Yeah.
Much love from Dallas.
And hey, guys, if you ever want to get out of a bad situation like Houston, there's plenty of room in Dallas for you to come up here, and you guys can definitely come hang out up here, and because I get it, man.
Yeah. Houston, once again, on behalf of 2/3 of this podcast.
Yeah, right.
We apologize. We continue to send love your way. We're not the biggest Houston fans because I'm not going to sit here and tell you I root for the Astros or Rockets, but we still love Houston nonetheless.
And since we did basically a Houston episode last week, let's talk about the inauguration.
Yeah, I think everybody got a snootful of inauguration yesterday. Like Roland said off air, I'm just glad that it was a peaceful transfer. There wasn't a whole lot going on over there.
Yeah.
There wasn't. I mean, hell, with all the police force that was hanging around, I don't think anything could have happened. But I'm glad it was peaceful. I did enjoy seeing, some of the past presidents come out. I've always been a big fan of George W. I know he didn't have his fans when he was in office, but I love W.
Me too.
And even Bill Clinton. I liked Bill Clinton.
I got it. Me too.
And somebody made you talk about people that make how creative they got, bro, with some of the stuff that came out of there. There's one video I got to send you guys. It's funny as hell. And it kind of centers around Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and their antics yesterday. Okay. It's really good stuff, but I'll send that to you guys later.
Well, and I'm also going to throw a little respect to the Obamas, because
absolutely.
Despite the fact that I didn't always agree with their policies or their kind of their agenda, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, they carried themselves with the utmost civility, respect, kindness. And I know that people say we need a tough leader. That's part of the reason why Trump somehow got into office. But you could still be absolutely civil and respectful and conduct yourself in such a manner that even though I don't necessarily agree with you, I still respect you. And I think that's what started this huge firestorm and backlash with Trump. Is there just so many people just could not be respectful. But nonetheless, we're past it now. You're right. Let's talk about the inauguration and going
I'm glad you said there is one thing that I did like about Obama. If nothing else, the one thing I could say about him, he was a great orator.
Yes.
I love listening to him talk.
Yep.
His first inauguration speech, I watched the entire speech, and it was, I mean, just the way he carried himself. You could tell he was highly educated. It was a great speech. And his policies were shit, but, at least the man could talk. It was great. But, I like seeing that part yesterday, but, there were some things to pick apart about the inauguration. And I think that the big one that I think most people, the two biggest ones, Bernie Sanders, that dude. I told my wife yesterday when we were watching it, you had all these guys showing up in the nice long 3/4 coats, and this dude showed up in a green hoodie, and the mittens that he had on were incredible, and just the look on his face when he's like this, sitting there like this, and that kind of turned into a meme.
I think the one thing you can say about that, though, is you got to believe that Bernie's genuine. I mean, that to come out there and not put on airs, to just show up and say it's damn cold and I'm old and I'm wearing the jacket that's going to keep me warm and mittens that are going to keep my hands warm and not really care. Hey, kudos to the guy. I'm going to be like that when I get old. I guarantee you that.
Kudos to him also, because those gloves, as funny as they were made by like a second grade teacher, I think, from Vermont, out of recycled sweaters. So, but three of my favorite like memes or tweets about that were, one, Bernie looks like, hey, we still got jobs to do today. The other one was Bernie looks like, what was it? Hold on, I'll edit that pause out. But I'm a swing by Joe's thing for a little bit. And then the last one was like, the inauguration was on his to-do list for today, but it wasn't his only thing to do for the day.
Yeah. Well, and then some of the scenes that he got, that whoever superimposed them into some of the scenes, I think RJ said that one of the funniest ones I saw too was him sitting next to the bench, next to Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that was yeah. I saw that one too.
No, but there was a couple other ones that were hilarious. I mean, you're right. Somebody came up with some stuff really quickly based on that, and I just think some people just have too much time on their hands. But that's me. And another part that kind of everybody was talking about was Lady Gaga's outfit when she was singing, and the size of that bird that she had on her dress was ridiculous, man. She basically had a pterodactyl up there. It was funny just to see her. And the thing was, she sang great, man. I love Lady Gaga, but I mean, her outfit was ridiculous. That bird was crazy. And I think it was, just one of the talks of the inauguration.
Definitely better than her Super Bowl performance.
Oh yeah, way better. And well, her outfit was way better, but I've seen it compared to Hunger Games several times. She looked like she was calling for the tributes. And then of course you had J-Lo.
Oh God, here it comes.
What can be? Well, the one thing I can say about J-Lo is I had nothing against her and her performance, other than the end of it was a little uncalled for. Let's get loud. She didn't need all that. But the fact that she was there meant that A-Rod was there, and I could have done without that.
I thought you were like a huge avid A-Rod fan.
Yeah, me too, man. I could have swore you were drooling when he used to play here in Texas. Man, your tongue was hanging out the side of your mouth.
You know what?
Did he have an A-Rod jersey?
Yeah.
No. First of all, no. Second of all, you're right. When he got, when Texas signed him as a free agent, I was the biggest A-Rod fan because I thought there were a lot of great years to come. Hell, they signed him to a 10-year, $250 million contract. They gave the dude $250 million. But by the end of his term here in Texas, I was over it. He was not about trying to help this franchise win. He was about A-Rod. I think we figured that out at the very end. And then his tenure in New York didn't do any better when he decided, I'm not going to go play third base. You're going to have to find someplace else for somebody else. He's a jackass. And if you guys have ever seen him on Shark Tank, he's an even bigger jackass. So I could have done without A-Rod there. But my moment of the day, you guys know I am the biggest country music fan in the world. And don't get me wrong, man, I love me some Garth Brooks. I love Garth Brooks' music. But man, for the last 10 years, the attitude that he plays up of him being the oh gosh, I'm a country boy attitude and real humble and shake voice crying to everything. That performance he put on yesterday was ridiculous, man.
I know you're not the only one who has something to say about that, because a certain other member of this podcast had some commentary on that yesterday.
Well, first of all, I do admire Garth Brooks. I'm not the biggest country and western fan, but I am a Garth Brooks fan. I do have a number of his songs are in my playlist.
You've got Friends in Low Places.
Oh yeah, of course I do. The River is one of my favorite songs that he sings. But yesterday, and seeing him come out, I had the observation that Garth needs to lay off the donuts a little bit.
Well, I don't
think hey, this is coming from a guy, hey, I'm a heavy dude too. I'm a big dude too. So, I mean, I'm not trying to fat shame anybody. But Garth looks like he could push away from the breakfast table a few times and he'll be okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've ever seen Trisha Yearwood's cooking show, you understand why he's ballooned up a little bit. But man, well, I was about to say, it looks like he took the Deion Sanders route to hair plugs.
Oh my!
Damn.
Yeah, that he definitely had some work done up there.
Whoa.
But man, that whole aw shucks attitude that he had yesterday when he's singing, and he's singing Amazing Grace, and he's amazing grace. And I'm like, come on, dude. But when he stopped down, and I
So
want all of y'all at home to sing with me.
it's funny you say that. That's almost the exact comment I made too yesterday. We were watching him. I was like, I love some Garth, but he can do without all the theatrics. I mean, come on now. I agree. The way he was holding it up, and closing his eyes and singing to God. I was a little put off by it too. But hey, it is what it is.
Well, hey Dion, if you ever listen to this episode, I just want you to know I don't agree with Jay's commentary. So,
whoa,
hey, dude,
if you want to sponsor me, you could always contact me.
Dion makes commercials about his hair plugs. He
does. He makes commercials about it. He's got billboards all over the town about it. Dude, he even talks about how his daughter made him a new brush that said Prime on it. Prime time and bling, because now he has hair again. Him and Brian Urlacher.
Don't you know his new slogan? Huh?
What?
Prime time is fine time.
Oh my gosh.
God. See how cringy that was, RJ? That's how cringy Garth Brooks song was yesterday, dude. You just kind of had me kind of going, oh man, come on, Garth. You can do better than this. And like I said, I love me some Garth Brooks, man. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I love Garth Brooks. Been a couple of his concerts, but I could have done with all that yesterday. And if you guys have ever seen the documentary that he did, it's like a 4-part documentary that came out on I can't even remember what channel it was on, but man, all the fake crying that dude does in that video. Yeah. And so, we were really, it really just came to heart that it really touched me. All the fans that came out, and I'm like, oh God, dude, come on, man. Shut up.
Wow. Man. Well, I know we got a few other things to talk about tonight, but maybe one of our upcoming episodes we can. What I'd like for us to review is the documentary on Tiger Woods. Have you put any eyeballs on that? Either one of you?
No.
I haven't actually sat down and watched the whole thing, but I've seen some snippets, and I think we ought to kind of do like we did with The Last Dance. Let's watch that, and I think that'll be fun to discuss about the phenomenon that is Tiger Woods and just how his life was pretty much, you could almost say, predestined by his father. That his father made the decision that he was going to make Tiger. Yeah. And I think there is some arguments that can go back either way with respect to how much of it was Earl and how much of it was Tiger's own ambition, because obviously Tiger doesn't get to the level that he's gotten to without his own desire and his own focus and channeling his ability. But that being said, it's a compilation of those two, I guess, mindsets. And then, just some of the things that Tiger lived through and experiences he learned from his father that really weren't, what most of us would say are ideal as a parent guiding their child into life. But
no, I mean, yeah, I'd definitely be down for that. Tiger is, I guess, part of the reason that my generation is so, I don't know that enamored is the word, but that the popularity of the sport rose with my generation.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, he is that reason that golf became, or that so many people started to believe, well, I can be big in golf because look at this guy. He's not white, he's not upper class, he's not, all the things that theoretically you could argue were the kind of prototypical golfers. Now, I say that Obviously, you had wonderful examples like Chichi Rodriguez, and of course, our favorite Mexican golfer,
Lee Trevino.
Lee Trevino.
Lee Trevino, yeah.
Yes, the Merry Mex. So we had some of those examples growing up, but again, just to revisit, golf really wasn't on my radar until this guy right here got me into it. And it was one of those things where I tried watching golf when I was younger. I could not get into it. I thought it was such a boring sport. I just could not really get into it until I started playing.
Yeah.
And then that changed. I mean, it became almost an obsession those first few years, because if nothing else, my first goal was I'm going to beat this guy right here. I'm going to whoop his ass on the golf course. That was motivation enough. But then after a while, as you really enjoy the sport and you find that you have fun when you hit a good shot. You have fun when you have a good round. And then more importantly, the camaraderie you have when you just go play golf with people you like and, people that you want to hang around with. That makes it all the more fun. But having said all that, there's no doubt that without Tiger coming and being who he is in the time that he came through, that golf wouldn't be what it is today. Again, I don't want to take over this show because we got other things to talk about, but real quick, I just want to reshare again that a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to go to the Masters the year before Tiger won. And even though Tiger had really been, let's just call it mediocre for, 4 or 5 year gap leading up to that, the biggest crowd that came through the entire tournament was all following Tiger.
Oh, of course.
I mean, and he wasn't even in contention that previous year, but all the cameras, all the spectators, all the patrons were there following him. He had the largest crowd that the day that I was there.
No, and I mean, even just thinking about what he went through, I don't know if he'll beat Jack. None of us can predict the future, but even if he doesn't, for him to go what he went through, with the cheating scandal and his back issues, to come back and still win the Masters last year, or was it 2 years ago at this point? Like a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
For him to still do that is impressive nonetheless. But yeah. I mean, I think definitely it's something we watch and discuss on, in one of the coming episodes.
I'm glad you brought up Tiger, because it leads me to, there's a picture out there where he met the greatest golfer in the world, Shooter McGavin.
I thought you were gonna go with a Tiger King segue or something.
No, dude. Well, I'm segueing into our next
Shooter
topic,
McGavin,
which is the greatest movie villains of all time. And if that dude's not one of them, I don't know who is. I'm assuming you guys have both seen Happy Gilmore.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
And the way he takes over Happy Gilmore's dreams when he's hooking it up with the grandma and the girlfriend and the gay. Shooter McGavin is one of the greatest villains of all time in movies. But comes to one of the funniest endings of his, time when Jaws from the Moonraker movies, from the 007 movies, that dude kills me, takes Shooter McGavin out. But, I wanted to kind of talk about, we've talked about politics so much here in the last couple of weeks and sports. I kind of want to talk about some movie stuff this week and a couple of different things. But, one of the topics RJ brought up was, who are your 5 greatest movie villains? And, that's a good topic to think about, because I think maybe Roland and I might have a couple that are the same. But, for the sake of posterity, I'm going to go ahead and go first, and we'll get RJ's list, and then we'll talk to Roland here.
Sounds good.
Good.
So, number 1, and these are in no particular order, but to me, the greatest movie villain of all time has to be Darth Vader. Um, I don't think it can be overspoken how great of a character Darth Vader is.
Mm-hmm.
I think of when you think of evil, uh, you think of the evil empire, you think of all that. I don't even think so much about the emperor as I do with Darth Vader, and I think it's just because of um, his persona. The big hooded, figure, dark figure with the breathing apparatus, and the greatest ending to a work a work what do you call a meeting of all time, when he just force chokes the hell out of that one guy. Um, you know, I mean, how great would it be if you're in a work meeting and that you have that one coworker that just won't shut up, and you could just force choke them. And
it's funny because I just to digress a little, I have a T-shirt that said, "If I was a Jedi, there's a 100% chance that I would misuse the Force." So it's probably a good thing that I'm not a Jedi, because I guarantee you, when I'm in traffic, I'll be choke holding people left and right, man.
But yeah, he definitely ranks up there high for me. My next movie villain that I don't know, I don't really like him, and he kind of goes from being the villain of the movie to being, I guess, one of the feel good parts of the movie, and that's the Grinch.
Oh man, that's a good one.
The Grinch, he gets on my nerves, man. He wants to steal all of Whoville's joy and all that greatness, and hell, just a song, "You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch." I mean, how many other villains do you know have a song made about him? There's not gonna be that many. Next on my list would be Hannibal Lecter. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Silence of the Lambs. I think, Roland, you have. RJ, I don't know if you ever have.
Yeah, I've seen it multiple times.
That's a great movie. And one of the greatest lines in movie history, when she asked him what he did with the security guards. So I enjoyed his liver with some fava beans and a side of Chianti. That's awesomeness. And then another great movie villain that I love, and he's not. I guess he counts as a villain because he is the bad guy of the series, but that's Buford T. Justice. Love me some Buford T. Justice, man.
Should have known that was coming.
And he's one of the most quotable bad guys of all time. Son bitch. And son, when I get home, I'm gonna punch your mama in the mouth. Some of the greatest lines. And then for me, my number one movie villain of all time. I've seen this movie hundreds and hundreds upon hundreds of times, and that's Colonel Nathan R. Jessup. I don't know if you guys have ever seen A Few Good Men. If you haven't, you definitely need to watch Colonel Jessup, because when you want to talk about evil, that dude is just straight up evil, man. He's all about, doing what he thinks is the right thing to do, even though he knows it's wrong. There's no integrity in what he does. There's no, I wanted to talk about movie monologues later on, because he has one of the greatest movie monologues of all time, which I can honestly tell you, and I'll prove this to you guys later, I can recite line by line.
I have no doubt about that, because that was one of the characteristics that or traits that you had growing up. It's like whenever you would hear a song that you wanted to hear, that you wanted to learn. I can remember you were in your damn bedroom with the tape, and you would play the entire song.
I'm not
as soon as the song was over, you would rewind it and play it again, and rewind it and play it again. and rewind it and play it again. Sometimes I would be like, man, I wish at that time I had a volume button on you.
I'm trying to explain to RJ, we didn't have Google back then where you could Google the lyrics of a song.
That's true.
If you wanted to learn the lyrics of a song, you had to play the song over and over again. And then,
and believe me, he did.
And that you guys know that there's songs out there that sometimes you don't understand the lyrics. You're trying, what did he just say there? So you got to kind of listen to it over and over again. And I'm like that. I've got several different monologues, different movie monologues that are, to me, some of the greatest movie monologues. We could have a whole episode on movie monologues. I mean, the monologue from The American President with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening. That's one of my favorite monologues. He gives at the end of that. Several different monologues from Goodfellas that I could probably sit here and recite line from line. Hell, just the opening monologue from the movie. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. That's one of the greatest opening lines out there, man.
Definitely.
But Nathan R. Jessup, that's, to me, that is the most evil dude I've seen in a movie. But man, he gives one of the greatest speeches in a movie of all time.
I'm gonna put an asterisk on that, because while yes, for the sake of this discussion, we're defining villain,
movie villain,
huh? Yeah. Or as the antagonist to the protagonist of the movie,
right?
This may be extremely weird, and I'm probably in a huge minority, but I don't necessarily felt that Jessup's character was a bad guy. Honestly, I think he was making maybe poor decisions, but he had the right mentality. Because look, the truth in life is there are certain roles that are hard. There are certain tasks that are hard. Remember, Jay, you and I talked about one time about how hard it is to fire an employee.
Yeah.
Right. You have to have the correct mindset to be a person that can come in and fire an employee, because some of us, we're just too soft. We hear every sob story and we're like, oh, okay. And because you always feel bad about letting somebody go. It takes the right kind of personality and mindset. I always view Jessup's character as the guy that, he had to get shit done. And, maybe you didn't like the way he do it, and maybe he didn't do it exactly by the book, the way it should have been done. But the truth of the matter is, you listen to the speech, the monologue that he gives.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to it, the couple of points he makes is, why should he? I mean, don't get me wrong. No one should be above the law. Let me put that out there. However, when you also expect someone to provide you the security blanket under which you sleep, and then question some of the ways he does it, there's that line between legality and morality, right? And so I guess in the whole context of defining a villain, I just would argue he's not really a villain.
I get it, but I think what pushes it over for me is the fact that, when you talk about what he did to make his points with his troops and all that, but the fact that somebody died,
right? But he didn't order their death.
No, he didn't order their death, but he did try to cover it up.
Okay,
right? He tried to cover it up. He lied to save his ass. He lied to save his commanding officers' asses. He tried to block the truth when they were trying to find the truth. He did everything in his power to try to roadblock finding out what really happened to the guy who died. And to me, that puts him in the class of a villain.
Well, so let me be devil's advocate here. What's the job of an attorney? An attorney is his job is to manipulate facts, to manipulate data,
the meaning of the law.
Yeah, exactly, to obtain his objective. And so to some degree, Tom Cruise, but you got to also understand that the purity of the attorney on the Tom Cruise character there, it's vague too.
Oh yeah, no,
because
don't.
the way he goes about getting the information is dishonest. If you really look at the boilerplate facts, all I'm saying is, and I didn't mean to digress to this.
No, you're fine.
No, I
But,
think it's important input.
I think it is because I think that I think every person has their own view of what a villain is.
Right.
But I think that there are certain characteristics that a villain would possess.
Yeah.
Because, like for me, like I said, with the Grinch, it's hard for me to really classify him as
Yeah.
a villain
I'm
because of the fact that, in the end, he redeems himself.
Yeah. Redemption. Exactly. Yes.
He's all about stealing the joy from the Who's. He's all about silencing them at Christmas. He's all about, taking, yeah, it is. But in the end, he realizes his mistakes. He comes to his senses, and he does find some level of redemption. That's why I kind of struggled with him when I was thinking about movie villains.
Yeah.
And same thing with Darth Vader. In the very end of it, Darth Vader redeems himself by killing the Emperor when the Emperor was, trying to kill Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of villains, there is some level of redemption. Now with Hannibal Lecter, there never will be a level of redemption.
Right.
The guy was just pure evil, period. And even though he did help, Clarice, profile and discover the identity of, Buffalo Bill, the serial killer. Yeah. And there was some teeny bit of redemption in that, but he was still, when he got out of prison, what was he on his way to do? He was on his way to kill somebody. Yeah. He's on his way to hunt down the warden and eat that dude's liver. So, I think that there may be varying levels of villainous.
Yeah. I agree. And I didn't mean to make this a debate much about the degree, but I did want to, I guess, when we get into my list, I want to establish that baseline because I think there's a different metric that I use.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Let's
fair enough.
You're up.
Yeah, let's get
all right. Well, I'm gonna do mine in reverse order. I have mine ranked. It wasn't a requirement like in most cases we usually say it wasn't a requirement. But I approach it from this angle, just thinking about all the movies I've seen. And so number 5 for me is going to be Jigsaw from the Saw movies. I know to some extent you could say kind of what you guys were just talking about. It's a little different, but he does the things he does for, I guess, somewhat moral reasons. But at the end of the day, there's still people dying because they might not be willing to perform certain actions in order to gain their freedom.
Yeah, I mean, morality is a very, very thin line.
Yeah, exactly.
In a lot of cases. And I think that's one of them.
But I always loved the Saw movies, and for that reason, because he doesn't. It's not like he just goes and picks out random people to put in these games. It's usually someone who's committed a bad act or it just maybe has done something that they probably shouldn't have. But after that, I would say Voldemort. I was a huge Harry Potter fan, obviously, and
I struggled with putting him in there. I thought that he was one of the greatest. He's one of the greatest characters in literature. They did him wrong in the movies.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't put him in there was because of the fact that for me, there's such a discernible difference between Harry Potter, the books, and Harry Potter, the movies.
Definitely.
That, it was hard for me.
But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a generic statement and honestly it could apply to any movie, but obviously to some extent, Harry needed Voldemort for his growth, to become his final form in that final book. But then after Voldemort, I'd probably, before technically, I'd say Thanos. I love Thanos, man, was especially in the movies. I wasn't a big comic book kid growing up, so I can't speak to his roles in the comics, but just from the way he was portrayed in the movies was great. Well,
and again, there's that thin line of morality there because the reason he explains in movies why he's doing what he's doing. He in his mind, it's okay for him to kill half the population of the universe so that the other half can live and thrive,
Yeah.
and survive. That's what you talk about with those villains. Some of them do have that level of morality to their thinking, and he's one of them.
Yeah, and one of the most iconic, scenes from those Avengers movies is when he's like, balance as all things should be. I think about that scene quite a lot. Next one is gonna be specific but vague at the same time. The Joker. I think the Joker is one of the greater villains. Just my opinion, of course. But specifically, the Joker from The Dark Knight. I loved what Heath Ledger did in that movie. But I think even if you look at like the cartoon series, Batman Beyond, all those, when Joker made an appearance, I always loved those episodes the most. Just because of the push and pull between Batman, especially.
Yeah, I think Joker as a whole, when you look at the whole body of work, whether it was played by Jack Nicklaus or
Jack Nicklaus was a great one too.
Or even Heath Ledger, because even in the 1989 Batman movie, I mean, the dude was just plain flat out insane. Mm-hmm. His whole goal was to kill as many people as he could with his toxic gas and things like that. I think that the Joker as a whole is a great villain.
Incidentally, portrayed by the same actor that's sitting over your shoulder there.
Yep. Hey, the great Jack Nicklaus.
The great.
There's no doubt about that. But that's why I said it's going to be specific but vague, because like I said, I think you can really kind of pick any Joker that's been portrayed. But number one, got to go with the classic Darth Vader. I grew up as a kid when the second set of three, the second trilogy of the movies came out. But obviously I had been raised up on the original three, 4, 5, and 6. And, even though when the Phantom Menace came out, and I thought, Darth Maul was pretty cool. And, of course his lightsaber is one of the most iconic. I just don't know that anything tops that original of Darth Vader. And that could just be biased because of, just like you guys, I saw 4, 5, and 6 before 1, 2, and 3.
So, well, and I think the joy that you get from a Vader appearance anyway, like in the appearance for him at the end of Rogue One.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, that's one of the greatest Darth Vader scenes, when he's walking through that corridor and just mowing people down. That's just an awesome scene, man. You gotta love Vader. And my apologies to the great Jack Nicholson. We had golf on the mind. Jack Nicholson is the golfer. Jack Nicholson is the great actor.
Wow. And you know what? We didn't even correct you.
I know.
Wow.
Classic mistake, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get version 2021 down there.
So for me, this was a little tough because I think there are a lot of really good antagonists that you could qualify as being villains. For me, I tried to think about the bad guys, so to speak, that really don't seem to have any redeeming quality throughout the context of their story. Now, I want to start with like Darth Vader, because obviously when we're first introduced to Darth Vader, we identify him as a villain because he is on the dark side of the Force. But when you take Darth Vader, the character, through the entirety of the context of the entire saga of Star Wars, you begin to understand his evolution and becoming the villain. And for me, the more apropos villain is Emperor Palpatine. Now, you don't know about Emperor Palpatine until the second, Empire Strikes Back, and then you learn about his character. But for me, the purity of the villain was the fact that Emperor Palpatine was driven by one singular purpose: his own power and control. That's right. True. And his objective was to get rid of anybody and anything that got in his way. So I kind of use that as the litmus test as for some of these villains. So, while Darth Vader, of course, again, I would not disagree with you guys. I kind of tried to figure out what are those characters, villains that I saw that were purely in it for whatever selfish reason, and there's no redemption quality to them. So with that said, and Jay, I'm kind of surprised you didn't name this guy, but in Die Hard, Hans Gruber, right? I mean, the fact that those guys are willing to kill innocent people for the one singular purpose of gaining money, and then to the fact that he starts taking the protagonist, Bruce Willis's character, personally, and tries to set on this bit that he's going to take him out because he's jacked with his plan. And so to me, he's one of the great character, the villains. I would never argue that he's up at the level of a Darth Vader or even a Voldemort, so to speak. But I think that's one that came to my mind. The other is, have you ever seen the movie Passenger 57 with Wesley Snipes?
Yes.
I haven't.
Huh?
Yes.
Where he's basically an airplane hijacking specialist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who doesn't like to fly. So get that. The flaw with his character. But nonetheless, the villain in that movie is his name is Charles Raines. And he is essentially a terrorist. He's responsible for bombing, for killing people. And you could argue that he's got a somewhat political agenda, but he just seems to me, I perceive that character to be absolutely pure evil. Like he has no concern or care about anybody else. He even sacrifices his crew members to make sure that he gets away personally. Right. And so that was one that I thought was a decent villain. If you haven't seen Passenger 57, it's not a great film.
I saw it, I think many years ago, and it's kind of just fell off for me.
Yeah, but check it out. Maybe you might see what I saw in the quote unquote villain. Now, the Joker is a great villain to always point to. The other one that I will point to is part of that same genre is Lex Luthor, right?
Because that's a good one.
That is a good one.
Epitomal antagonist to Superman, right? Again, he's always trying to figure out how to take Superman out. He wants to bring Superman down to human level, and more importantly, he wants to make himself even wealthier and gain more control. And depending on which versions of Lex Luthor you see, you begin to understand that he really, and not until the very, 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 very end, when it's all about his own self-preservation, does he become, someone who actually helps the Justice League and Superman, depending on which story arc. But the pure character of Lex Luthor is, to me,
the Superman, the original, the first Christopher Reeves movie. You start talking about how his mindset and his assistant girlfriend / I don't know, Miss Tessbacher.
Yeah.
The scene where he sends 2 different nuclear missiles in 2 different directions, because he knows that Superman can't get to both of them at the same time.
Right.
And, he sends one after, to the area where Miss Tessbacher's mom is. And she's trying to plead with him, hey, my mom. And he's like, that whole scene right there, that just ups his level of insaneness right there.
Yeah. And the disregard for anybody else's life but his own.
Right.
And then this one is not so much that this is, I would say, just evil, but to some degree, it was always a character, of the villain, the antagonist that I really can't stand, and I watch it every year, is Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Mr. Potter.
Because all his objective is to gain control and basically run the entire town of Bedford Falls.
Yeah.
Right. And his sole purpose is to get rid of the building savings and loan. And, so much so that when Uncle Billy makes the mistake of actually accidentally putting their deposit in his hands, the dude just keeps the money and keeps quiet because that's the way he's going to get rid of the building savings and loan, right? So to me, he's the epitomal villain. He's one of those guys that doesn't have any redeeming quality about him.
Yeah, that is pretty sorry. That's a sorry move, dude.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of a guy that, in this day and age probably would have never been in that position just because I think we would have, had him diagnosed with Alzheimer's and had him in a home somewhere. But yeah, man, that scene right there where he just keeps the money and that's wrapped up in the newspaper, that's sorriness, dude. That's just sorry. Pure sorriness.
So that was kind of my litmus test on these guys. And like I said, I didn't necessarily pick just these few. I think there are a number of good antagonists we could go back and have a good debate on. Maybe what we do is we invite our viewers to mention a few. Yeah, leave comments and tell us, who are the biggest villains or antagonists.
Honestly, I'm surprised the Bond villain didn't make it in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think a part of that was because the Bond villains were always interchangeable. Like it's like what gave staying power to guys like Voldemort and Darth Vader and of course oh my God, Lex Luthor and Joker is that we have so many instances of exposure to them. Yeah. Like you just learn more and more about their characters. I think the Bond villains, this week it was a international terrorist. Next week or the next episode, it was because a guy was trying to smuggle gold. The next episode of this was guy was trying to gain control of nuclear power. So I think that, that it was kind of there was no real, at least in the movies. Yeah. Again, you could go back to the books and that's different. We're talking about in the context of the movies. Yeah. But yeah, I think why don't we have some of our viewers, if you don't mind, hey, put in comments downstairs, down here below and tell us who are some of the villains that you dislike. And then maybe we talk about them on another episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's a fun, it's real easy to come up with a list of heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because heroes are a dime a dozen in the movie industry, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. It's always come up with that good classic villain that, it gets harder and harder just because, the level of movies that are out there. When you talk about being, villains being interchangeable with the Bond movies, I think of like the Rambo series, the different, he's always at first it's the sheriff, then it's the Vietnamese, and God knows whatever in the third Rambo movie, and it's just those guys are interchangeable as well.
I'm surprised Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze didn't make it.
Oh my God!
First of all, if Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze makes it on anybody's list, unless it's a list of terrible characters, that person needs some help, man. Because that is probably one of the more forgettable movies of all time.
Or even, I hate to say it, but Danny DeVito as the Penguin was.
Oh God, so horrible. Batman with the nipple shirt. That's
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No way, no. But I think it. What also is funny is that we didn't mention. I know we just talked about quickly in the context of movies, but maybe some of the villains / antagonists in some of the TV series, like in Narcos or Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad.
I think TV villains have to go. We have to put those guys in a separate category just because.
Yeah, for sure.
You're definitely. And the great thing about villains is villains give us so many different aspects of the movie to the point where, a lot of stereotypes from villains are some of the aspects they give us, like monologuing, to the point that the Pixar movie The Incredibles, the bad guy in the movie The Incredibles talks about monologue. Oh, you got me monologuing, because that's kind of the way it is. Bad guys always that seems to be their downfall is, let me because you got to think about the stupid villains. What kind of supervillain wouldn't think to make sure that their hero is dead before they walk out of a room.
I know, exactly.
Leave it to their henchmen to kill the guy when you got him at your mercy. You know, how many times has the villain walked away from the hero thinking, okay, well, you guys can finish him off for me, only for that superhero to get out of their situation and come back and bite him in the ass.
Have you know, one of my favorite examples of that? Have you seen I think you've seen the Zorro movies with
of course,
Antonio Banderas. Have you seen the second one?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, the second one where they find out essentially that Antonio Banderas' character is Zorro. Okay,
Yeah.
Don Alejandro. His character is in the movie, and they have him on the train platform, and the guy has a Bowie knife at his throat and about to slit his throat, and the wife pleads with the villain in that one not to kill him in front of their son, right? Because the child is there too.
Yeah.
So he agrees, and he allows him to. He says, "Well, he gets everybody on the train because they're fixing to leave." And he looks at the guy that's got the knife and said, you know, basically, hey, let us get out of eyesight and then, you know, do it. Well, that knucklehead takes him into the warehouse. And of course, what happens? Zorro escapes, beats the shit out of him, and comes back and saves his wife and child from the villain. I thought to myself, why didn't that guy just wait till they got on the train and just slit the throat and there it's over? Right? That's the end of the story.
I mean, there's so many great instances in movies of a villain, you know, making that one fatal mistake of, you know,
it's the story too. I mean, that's why.
Yeah.
If it actually ended like that, we wouldn't be watching. We wouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah, but you know, some of the great villain monologues out there, though. I don't know if I should do this or not. I don't know if you guys are appreciate the greatness of what I'm about to do.
All right, go ahead. Let me hear this.
I gotta channel my inner Nathan Jessup here.
Yeah, drink some water. Get it. Here.
Do that. If it backfires, I can edit it out. Is that what
you can edit it out? Okay, so now I haven't seen A Few Good Men in probably a good 2 years. It's been a while.
Okay.
But I think I've seen it enough to know or to get the monologue down. I always, you know, and this is kind of stupid. I remember sitting there one time, and I don't know if you remember this, Roland. We were in the office at Marsalis, and they were having a contest on the radio.
Yeah.
Of you know, if somebody could do a monologue from a movie flawlessly, you would win some tickets or something to something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I thought about calling in and I thought about doing it, but I think I chickened out at the last minute. But okay, here we go. Okay. It all starts with Tom Cruise, you know, asking, you know, antagonizing him, telling him, you know, what everything that you did and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, Jessup looks at him and he says, "You want answers?" And Tom Cruise says,
"Yes.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's going to do it? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? Son, I have a greater responsibility than you could possibly fathom. You weep for Santiago, and you curse the Marines. You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know. Santiago's death, while tragic, probably saved lives. And my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code, loyalty. We use these words as the backbone of a life spent defending something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide, and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would much rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand the post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
Bravo.
I think I missed a spot in there somewhere. I think I missed something. There may be a line, but that's about as best as I can do it from memory.
So what, RJ, when you're plugging the promo for this episode,
Yeah.
put in there, watch Jay make his acting debut.
Oh, dude, they saw me make my acting debut day one when I came on here with you fools because I act like I like y'all.
Damn.
You act like you got talent, so you're right.
yeah,
I see that all the time.
Damn, that's a good one. Well, I'm not gonna give one, but I just I'm not gonna go as far to act one out, but
Okay.
not because I mean, bravo to him. I just don't know that I could do that because I don't have it from memory. But one of the ones I like, I think is one of my favorites is Marlon Brando in The Godfather when they have the meeting of the families, and he's basically calling the meeting to end the violence because Sonny's been killed. Michael's had to go to Italy, and at that point he just wants to get Michael back. That scene right there for me is one of the great ones.
Mm-hmm. That's a good
one.
And
I also think Joe Pesci in Casino.
Oh yeah,
my name. That's my business. I was wondering if everyone was going
to catch that's such a great movie.
Yeah. So those are two for me.
I think for me, one of the best, or at least inspiring monologues is Bill Pullman in Independence Day.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because I was just about to say, when you said inspirational monologues, that one clicked into my head because I used to be able to recite that one line for line too.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Independence Day in probably 10 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could pull that one off. It's just because A Few Good Men is one of my favorite movies of all time that I think I can pull the Nathan Jessup monologue off. But that monologue, I remember seeing Independence Day in the movie theater, and that monologue, I had a tear. I rolled.
Me too.
I was fired up. I wanted to go fight aliens then too.
Hell yeah.
Anybody's asked after that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean that's one. And then as tired as the Rocky series eventually became,
that's
one of my favorite monologues is in, I believe it's Rocky 5. I think that's the correct one, where Rocky and his son are walking, and Rocky is contemplating getting back into the ring and fighting one last time. And his son is pleading with him not to, because he thinks it's going to embarrass him. Rocky's going to embarrass himself, and then he's going to also by extension embarrass his son.
Yeah.
And Rocky gives him a hell of a speech about not making excuses. If you get knocked down, you got to get up.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Just keep moving forward. I love that monologue. That's one of when you want to talk about inspirational, go listen to definitely. That minute and 30-second clip of him. That one's awesome.
Yeah. Man, I mean, there's just so many great movie monologues out there. I think we could do, like I said, we could do a whole show on movie monologues. I would love to just sit back and just go write down some of the best ones. The speech that Charlie Chaplin gives in the
The Dictator.
Yeah, The Dictator.
That's a
really good monologue, man. That's a great one. And so I think that I would love to hear some of our viewer feedback on what they think their favorite monologue in a movie is, because I know there's some really good ones out there, man. And I know I'm probably missing one.
So to our viewers, you're tasked with two things. First being, give us your favorite movie villain or antagonist. And number two, give us one of those movie monologues that either inspires you or touches you emotionally or leaves you one of the feeling of disdain for the bad character or whatever.
Yeah. Because a great monologue is going to move you in some way, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, it's going to.
I think that's a sign of a good monologue is something that's going to move you.
Right.
And you know what genre of film has usually has great monologues?
What's that?
Sports films.
Yeah.
You're right, because you know I think it's kind of stereotypical to think of a coach that gives a great speech or a player that gives an inspirational speech to get. You know, I think you think of Gene Hackman in Hoosiers is a good one. Um, what's his name? Keanu
Denzel.
Reeves.
In the SpongeBob movie.
Oh my god.
Okay, that's an ender, boys.
I just threw that
well,
out
look,
there to shoot the wheels off.
Look, I know we could sit here and talk
Right.
about movies all night, just like we could sports, but I want to thank everyone for tuning in for another episode. It was a great one in our books. We hope you guys think so as well. And we just want to thank you all for locking in with the Now That You Mention It podcast week in and week out. And thank you to any new listeners. We hope that you give us another chance. Check out one of our other episodes, or the next time that we drop an episode, you be on the lookout for it. Because the three of us know that time is everyone's most valuable asset, and we appreciate all of you giving us a piece of that time. We enjoy doing this, and whether it's only 5 or 5 million, we appreciate y'all taking the time just to listen to us be knuckleheads. And if you don't mind, we'd like to ask for just a few more seconds so we can get some feedback on the kind of content you'd like to hear us put out, what's working, what's not. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, or Google Podcasts, follow, turn on notifications, and leave us a rating and review if possible. If you are watching us visually via YouTube, please like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notified when our new episode has uploaded and dropped, so that you can leave us a comment, even if it's to tell us that we suck. Go find us on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, TikTok, and Twitter by typing in the Now That You Mention It podcast and hitting that follow button. And with that being said, we want to tell you to enjoy the rest of your weekend or the rest of your day, whatever time you're watching this at. And with 1 week coming to a close and a new one beginning, we hope that it's another great book or great chapter in your book of life. Good night, boys.
And thank you to Jesse P.
Oh, and thank you to Jesse P, because we couldn't do it without you.
There you go.
Hi, boys.
Hi, boys.